Update 2.0 is dropping very soon at the times you can see on the screen. So today I bring you a full lore recap of our entire first year of Infinity Nikki. There is a lot of confusion going on around with the story, so I have summarized here the entire story for you as quick as I can with all of the key information so you can start Update 2.0 with a fresh memory. But let me say, this video took many days of intense research and a lot of effort, and I have worked really hard to not only compile the entire story, but also analyze and figure out all of the answers that sometimes were hidden in obscure dialogues and books in game. So I would really love it if you could take a quick minute to like and maybe share this video. I'd really appreciate that with my whole heart. This video will be separated into two chapters. First, I'll start with a Q&A just to clear up the most common questions and misinformation that you may have heard. Second, I'll do a quick and factual recap of the entire story so far in chronological order, with a little timeline to represent it. And that means I am not covering in order of update necessarily. I will do an update recap as well later in the week with all banners, NPCs, events, and so on. But for this lore video, right now, I am doing a chronological order instead, because we have multiple timelines and a lot of history that happens before Nikki is being present, which can be quite confusing. Also, keep in mind that this video is for you to refresh your memory, and it's not a full retelling of the entire game, because that would be impossible. I would need a 20-hour long video to do that. So if you have not played the game yet, this video is pure spoiler, but can definitely help you understand the overall gist of it. In any case, I still recommend you actually experience it for yourself so you get all of the many details that will not be covered here. Lastly, I'll make a new video very soon with my personal interpretations of the story so far and a compilation of all of my personal theories of what's coming next. I wanted to include that in this video, but this video is too big and I think it's better to keep this only official factual information, and I'll then separate it and link it over down below. So grab a cozy drink because this is a long one. Starting with the Q&A, here's the hottest question I always get on my comments. Our world was destroyed. My entire progress so far in the game has been discarded. And no, it wasn't, don't worry. That is fully incorrect and can be easily debunked by talking to the seer. In the new intro, the seer explains that Miraland has been destroyed, but she does reassure every single old player that it was not our Miraland. For the new players who haven't experienced Miraland yet, she doesn't say this because they haven't experienced anything yet, but we'll cover that specific detail during the lore recap as well, so don't worry. Second is, bring Anna back. Why did you replace Anna with the seer? That is also fully incorrect. This is a rumor that can also be easily debunked by playing the Call of Beginnings quest, which is still in the game and happened during update 1.1. In update 1.0, during the original intro with the attic, Anna sacrifices herself by giving Nikki the Heart of Infinity and being consumed by the darkness. That's the moment she sacrifices herself. It's in the old intro. In update 1.1, in the quest Call of Beginnings, Anna comes back as an illusion or in spirit form to give us a final gift and a final farewell, fading into the void in front of us. In update 1.5, this has not changed at all. It's still the same. The difference is how the sacrifice was presented if you started playing after 1.5 as a new player. A new player has not seen Anna sacrificing herself with their own eyes since the cutscene was removed. Instead, the seer tells the new players that this has happened as a very long text dialogue that most people definitely have skipped, which I do not judge valid. So obviously this isn't great as storytelling goes, because you know, the whole show don't tell was completely ignored in update 1.5, but the story still remains correct and canon. Do not worry, Anna has not exactly died. If anything, the seer is just confirming that Nothing has changed, and yes, that continued happening just like we saw in update 1.0. So that brings us to the next question. What exactly are the differences between the old intro and the new intro? In update 1.0, we get a very cute intro cutscene in the attic of Nikki's house. The attic is filled with outfits that belong to Nikki's mother, foreshadowing that her mom has lived in Miraland at some point. We also have another separate cutscene later with Anna sacrificing herself to give Nikki the Heart of Infinity. This moment is called by Anna as the dawn of all things. After these 2 points, we have a game tutorial in the Stylist Guild Memorial Ruins. In Update 1.5, the attic cutscene was completely removed, and instead we get a new cutscene in the Sea of Stars. There, the seer describes the second cutscene that was removed through text to the new players who haven't seen it, who haven't watched it with their own eyeballs. After these 2 points, we have a game tutorial as well, but in the Sea of Stars instead. So the short answer is Nikki's mother had a connection to Miraland, which we do not know if it's going to be removed or not. Alongside with the Threads of Reunion Miracle outfit, which has been removed for now, but has also been officially confirmed that it will come back eventually. That's all. Those are the only differences. Nothing else has been removed from the story, so do not worry. Then we have the next question. So why did they remove the cutscene? Why didn't they just put all of it in sequence? The devs actually confirmed that they didn't have the time to remake this setup for the Threads of Reunion. I don't know if they didn't want to make like a gigantic sequence of cutscenes right away and stop people from being interested in the game right from the start, but they also confirmed that yes, the Threads of Reunion storyline will come back, will be reintroduced. So it's most probably just a gameplay reason due to the co-op system being implemented right away, which honestly, huge mistake in my opinion, but if you want to know more about my thoughts, you can check my 1.5 feedback videos because I don't want to, extend this video right now. But they also changed the tutorial and intro multiple times from 1.0 to 1.2. So it's not super far-fetched that they would change it just because of a gameplay practical reason. I think they just didn't know how to do it with the little time that they were given, probably. But again, we have no idea. We do not know that yet. We'll only know when Threads of Reunion is back. So, is Threads of Reunion storyline going to be retconned? Maybe. Of course, there is a chance that they want to remove Nikki's mother relevance, but we do not know that yet. Again, we are only going to know the answer to these questions when Threads of Reunion is reintroduced. But the series line, she said that Giovanni did not bring Nikki into this world by making a wish to the vase. Personally, I don't get this rumor because Giovanni has never brought Nikki into Miraland. In Update 1.0, we see that the Threads of Reunion dress brings Nikki to Miraland. That's it, has always been this way. Giovanni made a wish to the vase and asked for power to defeat Chigda, and power he was granted to his own demise in another timeline. In our current timeline, Giovanni's wish was reset, but I'll explain that better in a bit as well. Of course, maybe Giovanni has some sort of connection to Threads of Reunion. I cannot promise you that he doesn't, but we do not know that yet either. Next question is, so who is the seer and who is Anna? And we do not know yet, but that's very fun. Please do keep in mind that the story has just started. We don't have every answer yet, and that's the fun part of it. Of course, I have many theories, especially about Anna and her connection to the Abyss and the Church of Observers, and of course, it is very heavily implied that the seer is Nikki. I personally think that she's probably the prime Nikki, but again, I'll cover that in my theory video that I'll post in the future, since they are just delulu from my part. They cannot be here in this video, which is supposed to be facts and explanation only. So, the thumbnail of this video is just a rage bait? Yeah, it is. I'm so sorry, but I promise I have good intentions. I just really want this video to reach as many players as possible because a lot of people are very understandably confused about the story and won't be able to enjoy the next update properly. And the unfortunate reality is that people only click on the rage bait and clickbait videos. The truth is, there is a retcon in the sense that the story that we know is being retold and in a different way. But at the same time, it is not like a massive retcon in the sense that the story was scraped and everything was deleted. No, that didn't happen. It's okay. This story was not changed, and everything that we experienced prior to 1.5 is still canon, with maybe an exception of Nikki's mother, but again, we don't know yet. So worry not. We'll go over everything that has happened so far, and I fully understand that you may be confused about things. The real problem is that they fumbled hard with the delivery of 1.5 specifically. So I just wanted to reiterate that this is not your fault in any way. You are not dumb, and it's perfectly 100% valid that you are confused. Obviously you are. I was confused. I had to research for days and days with no end to be able to figure out everything. So I just think that it's a shame that such an amazing story could be missed just because it was very unfortunately executed before. And they are getting better with the execution on the recent updates, so hopefully the story only gets better from now on and we can enjoy that together. So, they fumbled and I decided to take matters into my own hands and I'm fixing it myself. So please, I beg of you, make one tiny thumbnail exception for me just this once. Okay, I've been a YouTuber for 5 years. I never do rage bait. I promise, I swear. You can look it up if you don't believe me. But yeah, again, I'm sorry. It is a rage bait thumbnail. Sorry. Now, before we start with the lore recap, important disclaimers. Do not skip it, okay? Don't skip. First, every story is always up to interpretation. So in this video, I'm only going to relate the facts as they happened. I literally try to copy and paste from the actual game text as much as possible, but there are some rare instances where I had to fill in the blanks to make sense of it. But I will always tell you in the bottom center area of the video, just like this, if that happens. I'll also timestamp these instances on the comments down below, and rest assured that everything else is just fact, non-debatable game text. Second, again, if I happen to do any mistakes due to the video being absolutely massive, I'll also correct that on the comments down below, which may happen. I'm human. Third, there is a lot of people who comment without watching first, and that's absolutely fine, no judgment, but when people ask me something I have mentioned on the video, I usually just reply with a timestamp. Recently, I found out that actually some people find that rude, and I just wanted to explain that this is really not the case. I'm just here trying to answer as many questions as I can, but I'm still just one person. If I keep rewriting my thoughts over and over, I won't be able to answer others. So this is not from a place of, oh, I'm upset you didn't watch my video. Like, literally, I do not care. That's all right. But instead, it's just me trying my best to be efficient with the little time that I have, trying to interact with everyone as much as possible, and, trying to answer everyone. Because interacting with you, seriously, hearing your thoughts and theories, this is the whole point for me. It's my favorite part of doing videos and live streams, so I do want to make my best to do that as much as possible. And lastly, similar to a book, it may be interesting to share what Miraland map should look like with the general location of each nation here for context. But keep in mind, the exact location of Sitia and Twin Moon are not confirmed, so these two are just guesses, and that's why they have a little interrogation mark in there. And that's it. We talked the talk, so now let's begin with the end, because it's in the end that this story begins. Miraland, a world weaved by light and shadow, whimsy and fear, beauty and ugly, divinity and abyss. Shattered by the heavenfall, Miraland was stitched together by its people who were guided by the gods to create outfits that hold memories, emotions, and power. Power that can change fate and shape destiny. But at every petal and feather that falls, between every soft and quiet village, the land of miracles is forever consumed by the dark. Over 1,000 years ago, Miraland was in the era called Age of Divinity. The gods walked amongst the people of Miraland, bestowing blessings and resolving conflicts. So far, we only know about 3 gods from this era: the Wishing One, the Loved One, and the Titan King. The Wishing One was a god capable of granting wishes. For that, he created the Fey-Wish sprites by using leaves from the Great Millewish tree. The Fey-Wish sprites would then collect wishes for their god. The Loved One, however, was jealous of the Wishing One. So the Loved One, also a god, made a powerful wish to claim his love. The Fey-Wish sprites brought it to the Wishing One, who granted it, but that was at his own expense, hurting him and weakening him greatly, since it wasn't a pure wish but a wish born of desire. This forced the Wishing One to take a new form, the Silver Gale. Much later, though, the loved one sacrificed herself to save others. At her final moments, she reveals to the Silver Gale that, in truth, she actually really loved the Wishing One. They kiss, and she passes away in his embrace. Then we have the Titan King, which we haven't met yet. The Titan King was one of the many gods that inhabited the area that is now called Terra Alliance. We do not know yet what this area was called back then though, so it could have been different. And yes, we have also met 3 other godlike beings that we do not know much about: Anna, Orin, and the Seer, but their backstories and exact time of origin is not known yet. Then we have the War of the Heavens, the Veilfall, and the War against the Dark. The exact order of these 4 are still not clear, as we do not know yet which one caused each or if it all happened during the same period. In the War of the Heavens, all of the gods fought against the Dark until all of the gods eventually disappeared from Miraland. In the Veilfall, a massive cataclysm happens, altering the world itself. And during this war against the dark, we had multiple characters of importance. For example, Herta, a sacred knight who created a special wing tack called the Iron Squirrel Statues. They were inspired in the iron squirrels, which were not extinct back then. She forged swords and crafted powerful armor, and was asked by the Wishing One himself to fight against the Desperate Vines. The Desperate Vines fed on people's desperate wishes and spread with the dark in the abyss. We also had Sif, a powerful being who could shapeshift into a giant serpent, and her friend Alicia, who were fighting in the war against the dark. After the Veilfall happened, they both returned to Alicia's hometown, where the locals started calling Sif the Divine Envoy. The 2 friends decide to play along with the goal of inspiring hope in people's hearts. During their battles against the dark, though, Alicia uses the Alrosa Scepter in a moment of desperation. But the Alrosa Scepter is one of the Wishing One's artifacts, which means it has divine power. And divine power is too strong for humans. It will always corrupt them. And Alicia, noticing her own corruption increasing at an alarming rate, begs Sif to kill her. But unfortunately, the townsfolk witnessed the act, and without knowing the true reason, they assume that Sif is a traitor and lock her in the Serpentine ruins, where she stayed alone for centuries, silently grieving the loss of Alicia. Finally, after everything, the war against the dark actually ends, with Dexter, the leader of the 8, sacrificing herself to seal the dark away. The 8 were the first stylists to ever appear, capable of using wind, which was a power that remained from the gods. Also, during one of these wars, Anna is sealed in the ruins, although we do not know exactly why or when. During this video, I'll make some interludes between the different chunks of the story so we can process it together, and I can raise some questions that are still to unfold. So far, like I mentioned earlier, we do not know the exact order of these wars here, but I believe that the war against the dark is just more like an umbrella term for the entire period where gods and peoples have fought against the dark and the abyss. So, at this point in the story, I think it's important to note a few things that I'll mention in my other video about my theories. First, the dark was sealed, not defeated, that's why it's coming back. Second, we do not know why or when Anna was sealed. Lastly, we do not know how exactly the 8 stylists get this ability to use the whim and what exactly happened to the gods. Now, back to the timeline. The Age of Divinity and the War Against the Dark were both over. We had no more gods in the land, and the dark was sealed away. Over time, kingdoms and towns rose once again, eventually leading to the creation of the 7 great nations: Heartcraft, Linglang Empire, Empire of Light, Terra Alliance, Star Hill Federation, Twin Moon, and Whale Port Space Station. In Miraland, we have many different peoples: humans, hybrids, pieces, Feywish sprites, shroomlings, and more. The wish sprites, like I mentioned, were created by the Wishing One from the leaves of the great Miraland tree. Pieces were created by the Silver Gale and are born from clothes. Some humans have such strong wishes and emotions that their clothing gains a life of its own, and it will carry on trying to fulfill those wishes in their stead. At some point after the war against the dark has ended, the Pieces and Feywish actually waged a war against each other. This war is called War of Descendants, with the Pieces claiming that the Feywish killed the Wishing One because they delivered the wish from the loved one, and the Feywish refuses to accept that the Pieces are children of the Wishing One, rejecting the whole Silvergale identity completely. During this period, sometime we also have the Mistvale War. After Stonevale and Flourish were already re-established, in this war, the Abandoned Fanatics group was formed, and they waged war on Flourish and Stonevale, claiming now that the Stylists killed the Wishing One. After finding Sif trapped in the ruins, they start believing that they could bring back the Wishing One to get their wishes granted again, by using the Divining Void, Sif. The Mistvale War eventually ended in the Serpentine Ruins itself by the hands of the Swordmaster, where Stonevale and Flourish united against the Fanatics. Then, 987 years after the war against the dark ended, Chigda, the Wishmaster of the Feywish sprites, which supposedly received the blessing from the Wishing One, becomes greedy for power and ends up devising a disturbing plan: recreate the Auron Vase, an artifact that belonged to the Wishing One, and obtain its power. To do that, he kidnaps children to experiment on them to create the Quick Wish bottles. These kids remain in captivity for 15 years. During these 15 years, one of these children, named Griffith, lost hopes of being rescued and decided to dedicate himself to a revenge against Chigda. So he manages to convince Chigda that he switches sides and changes his own name from Griffith to Giovanni. After that, he starts working for Chigda while planning to steal the vase to make a wish. During this time, the Empire of Light also wages war against Umbrazo, a smaller region south of Wishfield. Now, this is where the plot thickens, because we do not know the exact order of the events. So I'll share with you my personal interpretation just so we can visualize a sort of timeline. But this could be completely wrong later in the future when we get to the actual review of what really happened, which should be at the end of the game story. So I believe that we are entering a time loop. This is because, first, both previous Nikki games, Shiny Nikki and Love Nikki, are actually stories based around time loops specifically, and second, because of how I interpret Anna's and Seer's words. Essentially, at some point after the Empire of Light wages war in Umbrazo, Nikki is kidnapped by the Threads of Reunion in her attic.
Get up here! Pick out a dress for the ball. You're going to be late!
Okay, Momo, just be careful. Really though, what I have on right now is great. Besides, I don't even have a date.
Nikki! This dress looks perfect, yeah? Don't be a downer. I'll put it in your bag. Do you remember when we used to live here? Mommy never let us come up. So weird.
Momo! Feels like this outfit took us to a strange place.
You mean clothes with special powers? I heard fairy tales about things like that when I was little.
Since the heaven fall, I, Ina, the curator, have been imprisoned here for 1,000 years. Now, as the world's ball comes to a close, you chose now to step on the stage, outfit the threads of reunion. I used to dance with its owner. Those were the good days. Accept this gift from Ina the Curator. The Heart of Infinity will grant you immeasurable power. In return, you will lose something. Miraland, and revive all the miracle outfits, will have the power to save this world.
From what I interpret, Nikki was first sent to a future where the world is already ending, and that is Ina, sealed in the ruins which are in the border between Miraland and the Sea of Stars. But this could also be just present time, and the only thing being consumed right now is Ina's ruins specifically. Maybe even Ina removing her heart makes the dark go even more rampant and destroy the ruins. We do not know that, and I'm not sure if we'll ever know, really. But the exact timing doesn't actually matter, because in either these cases, at this moment, right before consumed by the dark, Ina gives Nikki the Heart of Infinity. And this marks the start of the loop, which Ina herself calls it as the dawn of all things, since she is fully aware of the time being reset. Then we get to the loop 0, which I call Prime Nikki. Ina sends Nikki to Miraland, 1 year I think after the Empire of Light starts waging war against Umbrazo, and Nikki continues her journey across all of the nations, defeating many Esselings and losing many friends in the process. Maybe the hardships of war break her because the Heart of Infinity falls to darkness and consumes the world. The Seer shows up for the first time at this point, and as you know, it is heavily implied that the Seer is Nikki herself, so I think that's why she's probably the Prime Nikki, the first one to witness all that to pass. But again, I'll talk about my theories on the other video that I'll make later. The Seer then, in this moment, resets time, which just spawns a new Nikki and Momo back to the moment she meets Ina. She meets Ina again, and seems like right now she doesn't really know about the loop yet. Then Nikki journeys through Miraland, fails again, the world is consumed again, and the Seer appears again, and again, and again, and again. But the thing is, these loops are like building blocks. Each loop, Nikki retains a memory or feels something new in her heart. She feels like she's meeting someone familiar. That's a memory from the previous loop. She feels embodied by cruelty. That's because she's already felt that in her heart so many times that she grows a little bit indifferent each time. At least that's what I interpret from this wording from the Seer, and also the moment that she seemingly will start panicking and suddenly the sound stops and she doesn't feel anything anymore. Some loops later, Nikki's reset once again, and journeys through Miraland, her heart suffering more and more and more each time. Her memories start becoming more and more fragmented, and the world ends once more, and she can't take it anymore. Her sorrow is so profound that she manifests an entire realm, the Danqing Islands, that Nikki would claim a new name, Artist Cat. She would paint all day, imagining her dream life where her friends are still alive. She will paint grass, fish, and people to inhabit the dungeon realm. At some point in the beginning, Nikki paints new life, including a koi fish, which, enlightened by her powers, transforms into a lung. This lung can shapeshift into a human, claiming the name of Miss Bai, in hopes that perhaps this new world that she was painting could become truly, truly real and not just a painting. She creates the ink pool cycle and the yin-one bonds. In the cycle, all these paintings would die and reborn as new life, experiencing new things, learning new things, and feeling new emotions. These new experiences would make them forge new bonds between each other, be it of love or regrets, and they would call these bonds in-one. Nikki hoped that the more in-one they build over time, the closer they would get to become actually real. Over time, Miss Bai and Nikki also forges a deep in-one. An artist cat ends up asking Lung to guard the ink pool and the reincarnation cycle. Nikki, or Artist Cat, then paints the Artist Nikki character out of her own desire of being a normal villager in that world, kind of like a self-insert, so she could experience once more being loved and cared by those important to her. At the end, Nikki decides to sacrifice herself to the ink pool to create new life and return to the cycle. As Nikki reincarnates as the grass, cats and bells, Miss Bai keeps her role as the guardian of the ink pool for 1,000 years. However, this burdens her each time, suffering through the many goodbyes over each cycle. Miss Bai, unaware of Nikki's intentions, stops the ink pool cycle, severing the yin-one bonds between her and Nikki and also between all the people of Danqing Realm. Thankfully, the 1,000 years of cycle have in fact helped Danqing Realm to become more real, like Nikki predicted, and this is what allowed the Danqing Realm to connect to the Sea of Stars, which will let our Nikki to enter this realm later in another loop, but we'll get to that in a bit. So far, I think that important things to note is, first, even after the destruction of Miraland, the heart consumes everything, except for Nikki herself. She always keeps alive afterwards. Second, by collecting many miracle outfits, she becomes so powerful that she's almost like a god, to a point where she can create life and an entire realm. And third, we do not know yet if Nikki re-enters the loops when she dies as Artist Cat, or if each loop acts as an alternate universe on its own, parallel to each other, rather than in a sequence. Or third option, Danqing Realm loop specifically is the only loop so far to become an alternate reality, due to the Nikki's powers creating a new realm. But to clarify, the Nikki who created Danqing Realm has already failed Miraland, created a new realm, and is now dead. Then we get to Infinity Loops. Due to Nikki's failure, this seer resets her again, sending her back to Anna again. She journeys through Miraland, fails, and is reset over and over again. But remember, each loop is a building block. Each loop makes Nikki remember more or less, getting her memories fragmented each time. And each loop also makes Nikki learn new things and new experiences, bitterly similar to the ink pool and the yin-one that she created herself. Eventually, we get to a new loop. This time, Nikki has a subconscious feeling from the previous loops that maybe she needs even more time to get adjusted with Miraland. This makes her start her journey even later than usual. In this loop, the boy Griffith, now calling himself Giovanni, succeeds in stealing the vase and makes a wish. He wishes for the power to defeat Chigda. He obtains that power and manages to defeat Chigda in the end. But as we've learned with Sif and Alicia, divine power is extremely dangerous to humans. And just like it did to Alicia, the divine power corrupts Giovanni, transforming him into a monster himself. Nikki finds this monster during her journey and defeats him without even knowing his true identity, probably. Unfortunately, at the end of her journey, Nikki fails again, and the Heart of Infinity consumes all. The seer grabs Nikki and resets time once more, hoping that the next one will work. And this brings us to the current loop, our Nikki. The player, our Nikki, meets Anna. So then she starts her journey from Miraland. But this time she has a different feeling. Maybe she should start looking for the miracle outfits as fast as possible, almost like her subconscious remembers the most recent loop. There, she meets Dada, Bebe, and Giovanni. He is selling wish flight paper in Florish as Nikki approaches him. Naturally, like the entire Miraland, Giovanni was also reset, but probably due to the fact that he had contact with the divine power in a previous loop, he retains some of his memories, because in this moment, as he looks at Nikki, he feels something familiar, and so does she. Oddly similar to a yin-one bond, he doesn't know exactly why, but he feels there's a special connection to Nikki. He can't help himself but be drawn to her, and because he isn't aware of the loops or that his wish was reset, he believes that Nikki is the answer to his wish. But of course, we old players know that this isn't true because Nikki was brought by the threads of reunion, not Giovanni's wish. After meeting Giovanni, Nonoi suddenly crashes down in Marquez's boutique where we meet them both for the first time. This chance encounter ends up with Nikki meeting Captain Haya of the guards at the Stylist Guild and learning about the coma accident. Very similar to Giovanni, all of these characters also feel familiar and immediately trust Nikki without asking any questions. This kickstarts Nikki and Nonoi's journey in investigating the coma accidents and attempting to resolve them. First, she meets Timmy's, the beauty merchant at the Daisy Inn. Then, as Nikki and Nonoi investigate, they meet Giroda, a Fey Wishes sprite from the Wishing Woods. Together, they capture a suspicious man who was selling a dangerous product called Quick Wish Bottles that seems to be causing the coma accidents. This will later be traced back all the way to the Wishing Woods itself. But first, during this investigation, Nikki learns more about Nonoi's past, who has been looking for her biological mother and is an intern at the Dream Warehouse, a place that has existed for thousands of years and is where the Fey Wishes sprites collect the wishes for the Wishing One during the Age of Divinity. We explore the Dream Warehouse, and as we follow the clues, we travel through different areas meeting different characters. In Stoneville, we meet Louise, Bettina, and Tanonio for the first time at the Flamecrest Festival. The clues also lead Nikki into the abandoned district, where she meets many pieces such as Jenny, Momo, Raggy, and more. There, we find out that there was a Feywish sprite spotted in the area, but Pieces and Feywish hate each other. Eventually, Nikki finds out this Feywish hut in a cave. His name is Avicinda, and he's captain of the Feywish sprite paladins. There, Nikki meets Giovanni once again, but he makes a shocking reveal. He actually stole the Wishing One artifact, and by pretending that he's actually evil, he tells Nikki to go to the Wishing Woods. So, like mentioned earlier, this ends up leading us into the Wishing Woods, as Nikki and Giroda start suspecting that Avicinda is behind the production of the Quick Wish bottles. There, Nikki learns that the Feywish sprites collect the wishes as orbs, and that they can also judge the taste of the wish orb, categorizing it into a pure good wish or a desperate desire orb. However, it's hard to tell them apart, and many Feywish get hurt because of the desperation orbs. Moving forwards, Nikki also finds out that the Quick Wish bottles are being used to generate more desperation orbs. She ends up fighting Avicinda, still thinking that he is behind it all. During this chapter, she also finds all of the children that were kidnapped in the year 987, trapped in a cave. And later, she also finds Giovanni trapped in another cave where he explains everything. He's actually Griffith, one of the kidnapped children, and he's now on a revenge against Chigda, who is the true mastermind of it all.
Chigda became something more than a mortal soul. To cure his desperation syndrome, he made a deal with the dark. It bound him together with the vines, granting eternal life. In return, he will continue to feed on desperation, becoming the desperate vines. But he wasn't satisfied and hatched an insane plan. Replicating the Orium vase, taking the divine power for himself. For this, he destroyed my life, my wishes. He left me only despair and hatred. For revenge, I pretended to submit. I helped them spread the quick wish bottles, found a chance to escape the wishing woods, and retrieved the Orium vase. I made a wish. I wished for the power to defeat Chigda. Then, time reversed. I was sent back to the moment I first started spreading quick wish bottles. But it seemed the wishing one was mocking me. Nothing really changed. Until you appeared.
Because of Chigda, the desperation vines took over the Grand Milawish tree, and the only way to cut those is by using a sacred blade from a sacred knight. This takes Nikki and Geralda to meet Herta, now a ghost or in spirit form, where they obtain a sacred blade for Geralda. In the end, Nikki defeats Chigda, clearing out the desperation vines that took over the Wishing Woods, and also awakening her first miracle outfit, Alrosa. Using the Alrosa, she wakes up all of the coma victims and frees the kidnapped children who are now adults. The first chapter of the story is pretty cool. It explains and closes many threads that were open before Nikki started her journey, such as the Herta, desperation vines, the kidnapping of the children, and not only that, she also finally manages to save Giovanni's life in this loop. Because Giovanni becomes a monster in the previous loop, he and Nikki forge a new bond. And again, very similar to the in one, this bond directly affected the current loop, where we play as Nikki. And I'm sure we'll meet many more characters like that over the future chapters. So it really feels like our Nikki is the one meant to succeed, because all the loops and all of the building blocks are finally aligning with the perfect amount of memories and experiences at the perfect timing for everything to work out. In Update 1.1, Nikki can obtain the Silver Gale Miracle outfit. In this chapter, the Infinity Mirror goes crazy and starts attacking Nikki. Then Anna suddenly appears, saving Nikki from the mirror. And of course is in just a spirit form, since she has already faded away in the dawn of all things. This is just an illusion she created to help Nikki if needed. She explains to Nikki that the mirror is going crazy because of Nikki's Heart of Infinity being unbalanced. This is when Anna finally explains properly the consequences of having the Heart of Infinity, how the heart dances with the dark and leads to the corruption of everything around Nikki if she cannot keep it under control. As Nikki is sent back to her world, she talks to the mirror again, which is now fine, and the mirror confirms that Anna has indeed faded away for now, but we may still see her someday. Also, fun fact, the Infinity Mirror also mentions that she was shattered once and was rebuilt by Lady Sonam. Lady Sonam is not only the founder of the Stylist Guild, but is also the daughter of Dexter, the leader of the Eight, and that actually Dexter is the one who found the mirror in the first place in the Stone Stalls. Nikki then moves on with her journey, now trying to maintain the Heart of Infinity stable while also searching for the miracle outfits. Here, she gets to know Marquez Jr. a little better. They both meet in the Firework Isles, a new region where Marquez's childhood friend Opera suddenly vanishes and leaves behind a mysterious puzzle about the legendary Fireworks Night. You and Marquez go on a journey across the isle, following different leads and acting a little roleplay with a Fey-wish sprite called Scintillada. The roleplay centers around the fireworks night and how brave and strong he is, but Marquez is not really excited or convinced about the roleplay. Eventually, you also find out that Scintillada is not a Fey-wish sprite, but rather a firework sprite, which was born from Marquez Jr. specifically on a childhood wish, being able to touch fireworks. Opera and Scintillada are just trying to help Marquez reignite their imagination, but of course there is some conflict because their approach, although genuine, was pretty bad. Scintillada is then kidnapped by a local gang looking to make money, and Marquez Jr. ends up accepting the role of Fireworks Knight, saving Scintillada and awakening the power of whim. So he is now a stylist as well, and thanks everyone for reminding him of his childhood dreams. During this update, we also get two small subplots. The first one is about Mr. Clay, the owner of the Daisy Inn. In this quest, we get to know about the Umbrazo refugees who are trying to escape the Empire of Light, which could potentially mean the Order of Tao as well. In this quest, we learn that Mr. Clay was actually a mercenary when he was young, and that one day, one of his missions was to escort a family to safety to escape the Order of Tao. But the Order is ruthless, and the mission has failed, leaving Clay with multiple scars. Because of that, he holds a big grudge against the Order, so he wants to help the refugees however he can. But because he's a little awkward, Nikki has to help him figure out how to help the refugees, which ends up being offering to shelter the children and the elderly at the inn. He also shares the humble origins of the Daisy Inn. They would gather daisies to make the bedding to offer shelter to all peoples no matter their origins, if they're travelers, foreigners, mercenaries of all ages. The other small subplot is the Lunar New Year event, where we meet Miss Du Yubai. Not to confuse with Miss Yubai from the Danqing realm. Miss Du Yubai is the leader of the White Jade music troupe. We have a quick but wholesome story with her that ends up with her playing the pipa. This is Nikki's first introduction to the Linglang Empire in the north. In version 1.3, our Nikki goes to the Stylist Guild to gather more info and learns about the Queen Philomea controversial history. She had the reputation of being a tyrant among tyrants, a belief that most scholars support, with records describing her as a cruel queen even to her own sister Olivia. Nikki decides to head over to the castle and investigate what happens, and there she meets many lovable characters such as Livy, Philene, Strange, Sir Percy, Mrs. Glove, and the Ghost. Talking to these characters helps Nikki uncover the real truth behind the castle and Queen Philomea. The two Queen sisters were actually best of friends, but Queen Philomea issued radical decrees that benefited the common people, upsetting nobles and officials who plotted a plan to poison Philomea and killed her. Additionally, later in Update 1.11, we learned that Philomea was poisoned and also told Olivia specifically to pretend that Philomea was indeed a terrible sister and queen, just so Olivia could have a chance of rising to power instead. Olivia ended up accepting that as Philomea's final wishes, and after she passes away, Olivia does become queen. But of course, history would remember Philomea as a cruel queen for centuries. In Update 1.4, we have a minor event at the Wish Carnival party hosted by the Fey-wish sprites. I'll be honest, I didn't really find anything substantial to Nikki's journey, so I'll do a very quick overview just so you can remember a little bit about it. In the party, an artifact called the Carnival Mask started possessing some Fey-wish sprites and trapping them in slumbers of illusions. Nikki would enter their illusion realms to learn more about those Fey-wish sprites, uncovering their hidden desires and dreams. Oh, and of course, it possesses Momo, turning him into Long Momo as he dreamt of being tall enough to be able to join and dance with Nikki. Now, we finally get to the traumatic update 1.5. This, I believe, should be canonically placed after the update 1.1, when we talk to Anna in the Call of Beginnings quest. This would make sense back then, because Nikki had just learned about the Heart of Infinity being unbalanced, which could also have propelled her to have the fragmented memories of her past loops. In any case, the seer grabs Nikki and brings her to the Sea of Stars for a chat. She shows Nikki the destruction of another Miraland from another time loop. Then the seer proceeds to info dump Nikki about everything that happens in Update 1.0 and 1.1, with exception of the Threads of Reunion kidnapping Nikki. Everything else is still the same. So I'm not going to mention everything again as we already covered it, but I'll list here all the topics that she covers again, just as proof really. First, if you are an old player, she reassures Nikki that our Miraland from our loop that we have been exploring so far has not been destroyed. She then tells Nikki that the Heart of Infinity is the source of all things, containing immense power, and that she doesn't even know how, but suddenly countless reflections of the world emerged from the Heart of Infinity, repeating thousands of times. She also confirms what Anna said, that when unbalanced, the darkness within the heart will overpower the light, destroying and consuming the entire world, and that the only chance that Nikki has to counter the Heart of Infinity is by collecting the miracle outfits, and that at the same time only the heart can resonate with the outfits. She also confirms that Giovanni was most probably just remembering the past loop due to the divine power that he got in contact with. This made him believe that his wish brought Nikki to Miraland, even though we know it was the Threads of Reunion outfit. This dialogue is important for old players because it confirms that yes, the Threads of Reunion storyline was still intended to be reintroduced. And yes, the Threads of Reunion still brought Nikki. They didn't change anything to be Giovanni or anything like that. Lastly, like mentioned before, the Sea of Stars is outside time and space. So when the conversation is over, the seer sends Nikki back to where she was in her own world that we have been playing on so far. When Nikki is back, she then explores Serenity Island. There, they meet many different pieces that are suffering from a strange disease. Suspecting that's the cause, Nikki purifies an essence called the Roaring Flames that was fused with the PC Marshall. He was considered the guardian of Serenity Island and sacrificed himself to save them. Nikki then saves Marshall's life using the power of the rainbow water, which results him in waking up and actually explaining what happened. Some centuries ago, a group called the Rogues sought a refuge with the pieces. They were running away from the Order of the Dawn, from the Empire of Light. The Order of Dawn was seeking something that they had and attacked Serenity Island, as well as quote-unquote summoning monsters. To defend their homes, the Marshal along Prosperville citizens used the Silver Gale's feather in order to summon divine power, to be able to save what was left of their home. The Silver Gale's divine power sealed the pieces and the Esselings in Serenity Island to protect Prosperville, and in the process, they ended up without any memory of what was happening in the past. With the help of Nikki, they were able to destroy the seal that disrupted the memories, and they were finally able to remember everything that happened. The pieces accepted Serenity Island as their new home, with Nikki being the new bubble ambassador. In Update 1.6, we go back to Stoneville to meet a fairy apprentice named Luluco and her companion Papito. But Luluco and Papito are both characters in a fairy tale book, summoned to the real world because of a boy named Barnaby, who made a wish for the characters to be real. This update, similar to 1.4, wasn't really that relevant to the world's lore or Nikki's journey, so I'm not going to go into detail here, but you can always watch it or play it again. Then we have version 1.7, with the amazing quest with Sif, that we learn about her past during the war against the Dark, but we also learn about the Mistvale War, which happened later. Both I have already covered previously on their respective timelines. In updates 1.4 and 1.6, they were quite shallow story-wise and didn't really contribute to the lore, while update 1.5 and 1.7, they were super lore heavy, 1.5 being poorly executed, as we all know, while 1.7 was pretty decent and was a good hope of recovery. But I wanted to just note one detail. During the history of Miraland and on Mr. Clay's quest in Update 1.2, and more recently in Serenity Island quest in Update 1.5, we get to learn some bits and bobs about the Order of Dawn. Their description is the following: with their iron hooves and the ability to summon monsters, which I'm presuming it's Aslings, not much is known about them other than that they are part of the Empire of Light. But I believe that these few bits of information that are being sprinkled throughout are subtly foreshadowing much bigger problems for our Nikki to face in the future. Finally, in Update 1.8, our Nikki finally learns about the Danqing realm, which I covered previously as well. Here, our Nikki from our time loop will take over the body of artist Nikki. Reminder, artist Nikki is just a painting made by the artist cat, the original Nikki from that previous loop. After getting to understand everything that is happening, Nikki starts recovering the memories from the artist cat Nikki. That's when she realizes that the In-1 and the ink pool cycle has been disrupted. As she investigates, she finds out that Miss Bai, the Lung, is actually behind everything. Miss Bai, burdened by the duty of guarding the ink pool, can't stand seeing everyone die and reborn repeatedly anymore. So she decides to stop the cycle and try to find Artist Cat. Again, another reminder, Artist Cat was right, and the reincarnations did make the realm more like the real world, allowing the Sea of Stars to find it. So Miss Bai disrupting the cycle means she almost kept Nikki from finally meeting her. But of course, for our Nikki, this is the first time she's meeting Miss Bai. But for Miss Bai, she already met the previous Nikki from another loop. Thankfully, our Nikki remembered most of her memories from the Artist Cat loop and managed to connect with Miss Bai and free her from the burden of guarding the pool. Now, Miss Bai has entered the cycle of reincarnation like everyone else and sadly does not remember Nikki anymore. But deep in their hearts, they still have that bond. Very important parallels on this story that I want to bring up, as I will mention these on my theory video next time. First, Miss Bai starts suffering and even starts getting corrupted from seeing all her beloved ones dying over and over again. To me, this is a huge parallel to Nikki's role herself, and more specifically, a potential parallel to the Seer. Second, the ink pool reincarnation is a huge parallel to the time loops, where everyone dies and resets over and over and over and over again, but always keeping a tiny little bit of familiarity. Each reincarnation, when changing something small, will be like a ripple, like building blocks, just like the loops. And it is also this familiarity that I personally think that explains why everyone always just trusts and loves Nikki immediately. Like, they don't even know her, but somehow they see her as a hero right away, always very trusting. And lastly, the In-1, these bonds, are the ripples themselves. These bonds are what people forge together by experiencing things together each time. Just like her bond with Giovanni that was created on the previous loop just saved them both in the current loop. So I personally find really odd that artist Nikki, in one way or another, makes the same decisions as the Heart of Infinity itself. It's almost like the loops were created because the heart was in Nikki, be it because she made it that way without knowing, or the heart is influencing her without her noticing. But again, this is like my delulu. I don't know if there is an actual connection or if I'm seeing things. So I'm not gonna delve into details on this for this video. Moving on to version 1.9, Nikki goes to the Beepcones Club to check out a new music troupe that is performing. During the quest, Nikki finds out from Vino that his sister, who died in a fire years ago, seemed to be part of the troupe, which creeped him out and puzzled them. So as they investigate, they eventually find out that Mr. Enyo, who is now the manager of the troupe, was the sole survivor from the fire accident. Unfortunately, out of grief and regrets and potentially survivor's guilt, he couldn't shake his wish of continuing to perform with his beloved friends from the troupe. So as he ages, he eventually resorts to dark womancy to animate his puppets into singing with the same face and voices of his dead friends. And from what I understand, it trapped their souls inside the puppets as well somehow. Although I'm not sure how the dark womancy works, they didn't really explain that yet. We just know that it's ancient and forbidden. This is a very emotional quest, and if you skip this one, I really recommend you watch it. In version 1.10, Nikki travels to the abandoned district to investigate the murder of Julie, the Sovereign of Saxony. Again, similar to 1.9, I just want to lightly refresh your memory about the key information surrounding this quest because it's recent, and I also recommend you do experience it as well because it was a very good quest filled with many details and great characters. This story quest was very fun and had a detective gimmick on the gameplay mechanic where you need to identify the lies and plot holes of each character's statement until you could find the real truth. There, Nikki meets many memorable characters, including Leora and Leon. Leora, Leon, and Julie as well were all born from the clothes of very famous actors from Scythia hundreds of years ago. We find out that Leon would rent outfits from a company called Fredstar for his performances. But the thing is that Fredstar was an evil company that crafted the outfits using the fabric from the body of pieces by kidnapping, trafficking, and killing the pieces to use their cloth to make outfits, potentially using dark womancy as well. Not only that, but the outfits could also harm the human who was wearing it. Eventually, Nikki finds out that Julie, the Sovereign of Saxony, faked her own death in a plot with Leora to try to catch the mastermind behind Fredstar, who was actually Leon all along. So for now, we hope that Fredstar is over and has ceased operations. In these past quests, we learn many new things about pieces and also about whim and womancy. Whim is the power left by the gods, which every stylist can use to craft ability outfits, and is basically the magic of Miraland, so they do womancy. During 1.9, we find out that not only there are forgotten types of womancy, but also dark womancy. In 1.10, we also learn about Fredstar, an evil company from Scythia that was killing pieces to make outfits from their cloth. This potentially is made with dark womancy as well. Also during 1.10, we learn about how pieces are born, well, at least a little bit, which can potentially be related to the dark womancy as well, which is kind of crazy because they were created originally by the Silver Gale. In the quest, Julie mentions that Leora only awakened recently, even though their human counterparts lived hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and Julie and Leon had already awakened back then. By Julie's words, the reason is because Cersei, the human whose clothes Leora was born from, was fighting the dark essence relentlessly. So almost like she lost the fight and that's how Leora was born? Or did she win the fight and then Leora was born? We do not know. Lastly, also on 1.10, we learned that if a piece is stitched together with fabric from other pieces, their memories start to merge, almost like a Frankenstein made of different parts, and they start losing their mind. Lastly, we get to update 1.11. I suppose I don't really need to recap much since we are playing through this right now, but I'll again list the key information in case you watch this a little bit later. During the fun board game event, you have several mini quests with the NPCs, where Nikki mentions how she missed her parents and her sister. This is the first time she mentions her sister in the game, which is really exciting for old Nikki fans. In Shiny Nikki and Love Nikki, her sister is called Yo-Yo or Nina, depending on the translation, and is a very important beloved character. This confirms that yes, Nikki was still brought by the threads of reunion, and that yes, she still knows and remembers that she was isekai'd from another world. This does not confirm though if Nikki's mother will still be important for the story, or if she will be in fact removed or retconned in the future. We do not know that yet still. We also get some more closure with Giovanni, which is really nice. It confirms many of the points that I've mentioned earlier. Then we have Philomia quest, where we uncover even more about the truth of what happened between Philomia and Olivia, which I covered earlier in the video. Also, we get to learn more about Mrs. Glove's horrific background and story, which gives us a really good insight on how the nobles were terrorizing the common people just a few centuries ago. And lastly, we have the Terra Alliance quest, where we meet 3 explorers who just came back from Interlude. This story is super short, but very packed with tons of information about Interlude, the next region that we are going to travel to. There, we see explorers uncovered a 1,000-year-old vase that has a picture of a titan fighting a dragon canine of sorts, and in the audience, Nikki and Momo. Naturally, I have a billion theories, but I'll mention here only the major and officially confirmed information that we've got in this quest, and again, I'll keep my crazy Delulu theories to the other video that I'll make later on. But first, Interlude is in the border between Wishfield and Terra Alliance. After the Veil Fall, Interlude became uninhabitable because not only everyone died, but the land was covered in a mysterious miasma. 3 years ago, however, this miasma simply dissipated, just like that, after over 1,000 years covered in miasma. Because of the land is now filled with explorers from all over the world trying to find treasures and secrets from the previous civilization, we have learned that the previous civilization had titans, priests, behemoths, a golden city, an eternal miracle, and an eternal king. The land was flourishing, but it eventually drowned. They also mentioned that currently in the present time, the natives of Terra Alliance believe that when the gods died during the War of Heavens, they merged with nature, and that this force of nature is now called Mother Terra. I think it's really interesting how Nikki has this weird connection to the past of Miraland itself, and with the gods from the Age of Divinity. She's capable of harnessing the power of the Heart of Infinity and is affected by it, or it's affecting her, we don't know. Also, she has unthinkable powers that we haven't explored yet, like spawning an entire realm and creating her own miracle outfits with her own spin on it. So she is also immediately trusted by everyone she meets, like I mentioned before, which could mean that there is more to it than just the familiarity that comes with the loops. And that's it for the lore recap. You are now up to speed and ready to enjoy Update 2.0. Personally, I really enjoy Infinity Nikki's lore and world building. Nikki's journey was very poorly executed from Update 1.3 to 1.6, but thankfully it's getting much better recently, and starting from 1.7, I think it's only been peaked and just increasingly better. So I'm excited for 2.0, and although I do expect bugs and all of that, I think that lore-wise, it will be a good expansion on the Nikki's journey so far. Also, reminder again that this was just a lore recap, not the entire lore. There were so many details and characters and fun facts that sadly did not make into the video, because or else it would be 20 hours long. Also, the emotional aspect of experiencing these stories for yourself is really worth it, especially starting from Update 1.7, but I would love to mention Update 1.9, 1.10, and 1.11, both Mrs. Glove backstory and the Terra Alliance quest. All of these quests, just you need to experience for yourself, I think. Lastly, I wanted to thank several people. First, thanks to all of the YouTubers who post a full gameplay with no commentary. They will be linked down in the description below, because without your uploads, I would not have been able to make this video. Secondly, I want to thank everyone who sent me questions for me to answer in this video. And lastly, I wanted to say how grateful I am to you. The Moonsugar community, if you will, is so wholesome and so kind and so fun to be around. You're all so funny. I just love discussing theories and updates and complain and laugh about so many things together during this year. And no joke, Infinite Nikki has changed my life. I know it sounds exaggerating, but it really isn't. It has been a very hard year for me personally. I am not in a great mental state, and my life has been honestly an absolute mess. But as I look back in this year, I just wanted to say that you are truly the highlight for me. So thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me on this crazy year, and I hope we continue for many more. Hope you have fun and good luck on your next polls. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to all of the members and patrons who support the channel and make these videos possible. And see you on the next one.
Ryan Little.